Now, Pick n Pay has issued a notice recall of 3 brands of peanut butter due to safety concerns. The retailer is urging customers who bought the no-name Smooth peanut butter and Eden Smooth peanut butter and Eden Crunch peanut butter to return them for a full refund. If any of the product has an expiry date between now and July of 2025. To expand on this, I'm now joined by Prudence Moilwa, who's Head of Complaints and Investigations at the National Consumer Commission. A very good afternoon to you. Thank you for coming in studio.
Thank you, Mpho, and good afternoon to your viewers.
This sounds like such a frightening revelation. I mean, I know that aflatoxin is what was found to have been contained in these brands of peanut butter. What is it, and why is it life-threatening?
Thank you. It's concerning, but I wouldn't want the public to panic.
Yeah.
Because certain levels of aflatoxins are allowed, but these ones were found after Pick n Pay ran their tests. They discovered that the levels were actually higher than the regulated amounts. So that is why they started the recall. And yes, in terms of the risks that are involved, in the long term, there might be long-term illnesses that are very serious that might affect consumers. And that is why, as the Commission, we felt it necessary to join in the communication to say to consumers, please do not consume the product, return it to your point of sale.
How was this uncovered?
From the broader discussion that we had with Pick n Pay this morning, they informed us that what prompted the testing was that one of the consumers had actually noticed that the color of the one peanut butter was actually darker than usual. And they had also written it off as just peanuts having been overburned or overburnt while they were being prepared. But then when they took it for testing, they also tested for toxins in the peanut butter. That's how they first found out that the aflatoxins levels in their own brand, their house brand, the one kg one, had higher amounts of aflatoxins, and that's when they then took the Eden one, because Eden is their supplier. It's the one that actually manufactures the product for Pick n Pay. So that's how they discovered the levels, and then by Thursday, they took it all off the shelves, but then the concern is that there might be consumers out there who have the product.
Yes, as you make that urge for consumers to return the product, how will a consumer know that this is indeed the very product that you and I are speaking of? I mean, is there a batch number? Are we looking at a certain period of time where one purchased this peanut butter?
From what we impressed upon them, and they agreed today, is to say, let us make it broader. They had given 2 batches. Eden had given 2 batch numbers. But what you can say to consumers is, if you have the Eden peanut butter in your cupboard currently, and if you have the Pick n Pay brand, please return it. It doesn't matter whether you bought it before the 6th of December like we initially thought. Because after our discussions today, we said to make it safe for consumers in South Africa, let us just return all the products so that consumers may be safe.
With this discovery, I mean, what sort of processes will you follow in terms of repercussions for the retailer or the producer, the manufacturer, pardon me? How are you approaching this?
Yeah. In terms of the Consumer Protection Act, as you may know, Section 60 states that suppliers have a responsibility to make sure that all products that are sold to the public are safe. That's where it starts. And in the event where they discover anything that is untoward, that might affect consumer health or might be any kind of safety concern to consumers, they have a responsibility to recall the product and inform the Commission. From our end, we have a responsibility to make sure that the recall is successful by monitoring the recall. Over and above that, the Commission will have to also, during its monitoring, if it discovers that there were cases of negligence in this regard or just prohibited conduct being willfully committed, we might need to conduct our own investigation. Right now, it's still early days. From our end today, we ask the supplier to conduct its own investigation as to what transpired. Some of the things that Eden alluded to was that something went wrong in production, where some of the peanuts were perhaps wet at the time, and the required standards of handling, the handling practices, were not adhered to. So we did ask them to conduct their own investigation, while we also insisted that they recall all the products that might have any effect to consumers, especially if consumers still have them.
Should you find that, there was negligence here and deliberate perhaps, what action do you take?
Yes. In terms of the Consumer Protection Act, we have a responsibility to conduct a full-on investigation. And in the event where we do uncover in terms of the level of prohibited conduct, we will then have to approach the National Consumer Tribunal, where we may ask for a maximum fine of about 10% of their annual turnover. And nothing in this regard stops consumers from also claiming damages. In certain cases, the Commission has had to also refer matters to the NPA if criminal conduct is uncovered.
With that process taking place very carefully, how many units are you looking to, bring back in terms of a tally on numbers? I know you have since extended outside of the prescribed period that you initially spoke of, but how many units are we talking about?
Yeah. From the records that Pick n Pay shared with us, they said that at the point of sale, it looks like about 13,000 units were sold. But if they extend it beyond what was sold since the beginning of December, we're looking at higher numbers. But I think in terms of the focus, the original focus, they're talking about 13,000 units or more. And so far, they've also said that they've removed, I think, about 5,000 from the shelves, and about 900 consumers have now returned the product.
With those consumers who may be sitting at home thinking, yes, this conversation is relating to them, and they do have these jars, what's the process? You just walk into a shop, whether you have half a jar or it's close to empty. What is the process?
Yes, this is very important. Consumers must know when you return it, it doesn't matter how much of it is still left. You will get a full refund. In all safety recalls, in terms of the Consumer Protection Act, consumers are entitled to a full refund whether or not they have a receipt. Go back to your point of sale, because this is an identifiable product. They can be able to see that this is the product, take it back to their point of sale for a full refund. And if there are any problems, we urge consumers to contact the National Consumer Commission.
How will you be monitoring the process from the batches being recalled? These are companies, this is a company that has staff members and, people who work there and, still make a living from working there. What happens to the image of the brand, the relationship? How much of an eye will you be keeping on this company as they discover the problem and remake the product and place it back on the shelf?
Yes. We want to emphasize that companies have a responsible citizenry towards consumers in South Africa. As companies, as responsible citizens, they have to look after their consumers first and foremost. And I think all of us can agree that when they do that, they actually have increased their brand power. A responsible business does not conduct a silent recall. So in terms of what we do as the Commission, we will be monitoring it. Right now, we have the details of what is being recalled. Every 2 weeks, they will be providing us with feedback in terms of the numbers of items that are coming back. And following that, the Commission, we will be monitoring it up to destruction. So after all the recall is done, we will require them to show us a destruction certificate to make sure that all the products have been recalled and all the products that were recalled have been destructed.
Okay, very well. Thank you so much for coming in studio to talk to us about this. This, of course, conversation, as we concluded, Prudence Moilwa, who's the head of complaints and investigations at the National Consumer Commission, giving out the processes that are going to take place after this recall of the 3 brands of peanut butter.